Hey, this is Stevie Rochelle from Tough and Metal Sludge, your favorite website. You are locked and loaded on the Music Mania podcast.
You ready for some screaming heavy metal? We rock!
But the evil that men do lives on.
We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here's your host, Clint Schweitzer.
And thank you once again for joining us here on the Music Mania podcast, our second show of the year 2019. We are back at it again. Two huge guests on this show alone. We've got Robin Wilson, the singer of the Gin Blossoms, as well as Michael Lardie, guitarist from Great White. Both going to be joining us. On this show, guys, you already know the songs. On this show, we tell you the stories, and that's what we're going to do, and that's what we're looking forward to doing on into 2019 is, guys, this winter, it's long and cold, but we're going to be out of it soon. It's going to be summer concert season before you know it, and we're just ramping up here on the Music Mania podcast, getting a lot of interviews taped. We're already backlogged, so that's good. We love doing it. Love being out on the road, covering concerts. That's what we do. We always appreciate you hitting the subscribe button on iTunes or Google Play. If you have a device, if you have a phone, then you have access to this show. iTunes or Google Play, either one, you can press that subscribe button. We always appreciate it. MusicManiaPodcast.com. That's where all of our shows are archived. You can get all 105 of them there. Just start with number 1 and work your way down. That's what most people do. Of course, on Twitter at MusicMania_show. We always appreciate the interaction, guys. But this show is extra special for me. Our first member from the Gin Blossoms is going to be joining us. One of my favorite bands from the 90s. Guys, the band's fusion of pop, melodic rock, folk, and country elements took to the airwaves, and they took it by siege back in the 90s. They made the band an MTV playlist hostage for almost a decade, and the group was a natural 90s mainstay. From their breakout album through today, Robin, Jesse, Bill, and Scotty have sold over 10 million records and are one of the most in-demand 90s live artists. And I'll tell you what, they began in the middle of the grunge era, but just such a uplifting pop rock band. The Gin Blossoms, their hits from Allison Road, Lost Horizons, Hey Jealousy, Follow You Down, Found Out About You. So many great songs, and they have a new album out, which we're going to be talking to Robin Wilson about, Mixed Reality. It is a great album. Such a classic sounding Gin Blossoms record. It came out in June. You can get that on Amazon. Guys, they have tour dates that start here in Kansas City, January 25th. That is coming up. They're going to be at the Ameristar Casino here. In the last 3 years, I've seen Gin Blossoms live 4 times, I believe, and all in different venues. I've seen them opening up for a Mizzou football game, playing at 9 a.m. before a Mizzou homecoming football game in Columbia. I've seen them at a raceway before a race, seen them at a winery in Lake of the Ozarks, and they just are one of those bands that they're everywhere. They're road warriors. They're always touring. They're so in demand, and they're just one of my favorite, absolute favorite bands of the 90s, no question about it. The 1992 album, New Miserable Experience, one of the best records of the entire decade, and they're going to be playing that live in its entirety coming up on tour. You can go to ginblossoms.net to get all the information on that. VIP tickets and regular tickets for these shows are available. So you want to hear that album played in its entirety? I don't think the band's ever done that before. That's going to be available. We're going to be talking to Robin about performing with Kiss on The Tonight Show back in 1994. Recording a Kiss song, Christine 16, for the Kiss tribute album, Kiss My Ass. We're going to be going around the gambit with Robin Wilson about the ups and downs of the band's career from 1992 until today, how they have managed to stay around and stay relevant in today's musical climate. And I'm going to be talking with Michael Lardie, guitarist from Great White. The band has a show here at the Kansas Crossing Casino in Pittsburgh, Kansas. That's a couple hours away. Just a hop, skip, and a jump from Kansas City. Get down to this show. It's January 26th. It's on a Saturday. The beautiful and very new Kansas Crossing Casino is where Great White's going to be talking with Michael. We've had Mark Kendall on the show. We've had even Jack Russell on the show, who, of course, is doing his own version of Great White. but we've had Mark Kendall on. That's back when Terry Illuz was the singer from XYZ. Now they've got Mitch Malloy, who is a powerhouse vocalist and frontman, and how things have changed for the band and how they feel this is going to be, the new incarnation of Great White and what Mitch brings to the band. So excited to have Michael Lardie on talking about all things Great White. You can go to their website, officialgreatwhite.com, and get all the information on their upcoming tour dates. They have some in January going all the way through April. Always a busy group out there, still playing live and doing a great job of it. So before we get to our interview with Gin Blossom's frontman Robin Wilson, got to tell you about our sponsor, CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri. Guys, for over 22 years, a staple of the Northland. They buy, sell, and trade CDs, DVDs, vinyl, collectibles, and more. Do not let the vibe of the old school record store go by the wayside. Visit them off Antioch Road in Gladstone today. Tell the owner, Randy Ringer, Music Mania sent you, and you will get a discount, or it's on us. Hey, Robin, it's Clint Schweitzer from Music Mania. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine. Good day to you.
Yes, it is just a pleasure to have you on the show. The first Gin Blossoms member to ever come on the show, and we're so excited to have you, Robin. Let's start off with a little piece of Gin Blossoms trivia. Are you aware that 25 years ago today that Found Out About You went to number 1 on the alternative charts? That's a little nugget to start off things. That's pretty cool.
I guess that is. Yeah, I heard that earlier today. I was doing another interview, and they told me that, and I said, no, I don't think so. I don't think we ever had a number 1 song. And to my recollection, we never did. But I guess I'm thinking of the top 40 chart, not really the alternative chart. And what is your source for that? Is it like Pulse magazine or something like that, or was it Billboard's alternative chart?
I'm not sure if it's Billboard. This was just from the band's Twitter. So when it comes to I don't know the different. Obviously, the alternative charts have a different distinguishing numbers and things like that from back in the day. It's definitely different now, but hey, there's all sorts of ways. This is probably like pre-sound scan too, so God only knows, really.
Right. Yeah, I'm skeptical. Frankly, Clint, I'm really skeptical.
Well,
but if you say so, I'll go along with it for the sake. Okay.
Yeah, it makes for a good story, makes for a good, timely moment in history, and so we'll be linked forever for this. So I just got to start off, Robin, because Gin Blossoms are one of my favorite bands of all time, and let me just tell you, I'm in Kansas City. So in the last 3 years, Robin, I have seen the Gin Blossoms at a raceway. I have seen the Gin Blossoms before a Mizzou football game at 9 a.m., and I have seen the Gin Blossoms at a wonderful, beautiful winery in Lake of the Ozarks. You are truly the band that is anywhere and everywhere, no matter what, right? I mean, it's pretty cool.
That's right. There isn't an auto dealership parking lot that we wouldn't play at. Yeah.
That is, it's awesome, though. I mean,
Well, we're mercenaries. We go where gigs are offered. And we haven't always had the financial clout to pick and choose the venues. So I get really jealous when I see like Smashing Pumpkins out on tour, and they're always in like the coolest places, and I have to wonder, like, did Smashing Pumpkins ever have to play in auto dealership parking lots? And or is it just us? So anyway, there's always a grass is greener scenario, when it comes to rock and roll. There's lots of levels to this. And I've always said, well, we're like a mid-level band. But these days I can say with confidence that we are at the top of the middle. So
I think that's accurate. And to be honest, growing up a huge Mizzou football fan my whole life, it was like the melding of two worlds for me. It's like, it was homecoming, the Gin Blossoms are playing, and you had said, I believe on stage, it was the earliest gig you've ever played, which I hope so, at 9 a.m., that was the earliest you guys have ever taken the stage. That's a wake-up call there.
Yeah, it sure was. That was just last year,
yep.
Correct?
Yeah, last fall.
Yeah, I remember. That's right. My cousin's kids came to the show. I was really happy to see see those girls. So, and I guess we're coming back soon, aren't we?
You are, in fact. Yeah, definitely going to have you back in Kansas City here on January 25th at the Ameristar Casino. This is sort of like the new leg, you guys, because you guys are always touring. I can't say that the new tour starts because you guys are always on tour, but the latest leg starts here in Kansas City on the 25th, man. We're excited to have you back.
Well, thank you. But actually, technically, that's a fly date. And then it's a few weeks later that our tour really begins. I think of a tour when it's like 5 shows in the same week, and we're out on a bus or something like that. And mostly through the year, we do a lot of fly dates. And so I don't necessarily think of that technically as touring as much as it is just like doing a one-off or whatever. But a couple of weeks after that, or a week or so after the Kansas City show, is when we fire up the New Musical Experience live tour that we're doing. We're doing about 5 weeks of that, and that's going to be a lot of fun because we'll be out in major markets, playing places like Chicago House of Blues and New York City, and that's going to be a pretty exciting tour. And through great effort and a lot of cajoling, I managed to get some friends of mine on the bill. So I've got a couple of my favorite bands, up-and-comers, that are going to be supporting us on that tour. So I'm looking forward to that. And we'll have a whole new line of merchandise and all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry you're going to be missing out on that aspect of it, but I promise we won't stop. How about that?
I could promise anyone that. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So the New Miserable Experience, it'll be kind of a different set then, because you got 2 dates actually. You got the Kansas City date, then Baton Rouge, Louisiana the next day, which is a hell of a turnaround from a Friday to a Saturday. Good luck with that. But so will it be a little different? The show's kind of be a little different then before you kick off the New Miserable Experience part of it.
Yes, this will be our what you might refer to as our regular set. But the New Miserable Experience Tour will actually be doing the entire album from beginning to end in sequence. Excuse me. And so the show in Kansas City will be able to sort of jumble things up a little bit more and be able to play a little bit more variety from our catalog. But once we get out on the NME Live Tour, we start the show with the album, and so the first 12 songs or whatever is New Musical Experience in sequence, and so that's kind of a different sort of show for us. And we're going to be rehearsing, which is really, really rare for us. We're going to be rehearsing just before that Kansas City show, so there should be a few things that we're not currently playing that we'll be able to add into the set and start warming up that weekend. So you might hear something like we might be debuting a song we've never played live before, or something along those lines.
Absolutely, gonna hold you to that. I'll tell you what. Like a lot of bands are doing, I think this is awesome because I've taken part of it a couple years ago, and down at the Lake of the Ozarks at the Ozarks Amphitheater, I did one of your VIP experiences. It is truly a great experience for fans to come get a photo. Those are available on your website, ginblossoms.net, for all the shows coming up here on the New Miserable Experience Tour. Just talk about that, what it's like for you guys to be able to meet fans beforehand and kind of give them that experience. I mean, it's, you hear, hit and misses when it comes to some of these experiences, but your guys' is really great. You're really gracious with the fans. I know that because I've taken part in one. So what's that like for you guys being able to meet the fans before these shows?
Well, first of all, Clint, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that you purchased the VIP package and that you were satisfied and you enjoyed it and that you thought we were gracious and all that. That means a lot to me. Thank you. It's like you said, it's kind of hit or miss. A lot of the times we put those things together, the VIP package, and maybe only 3 or 4 people will sign up for it, and then they'll be late, and we have to go down to this gig early, and then the people are late, and we have to sit around waiting for them, and sometimes they don't get there until just before the show, and I really don't enjoy that when it's like 15 minutes before showtime and all of a sudden we got to get pulled out of our meditations or whatever, and go do the meet and greet. And that always feels a little rushed and a little hectic. But we're planning out for the upcoming tour. We're planning it better, where we're going to be doing it in the venue, not in the dressing room. We're going to be out in the venue, near the stage. We're going to do it a few hours before showtime, right before doors even open, and we're going to include. And I'm sorry, this doesn't begin until the New Musical Experience tour, but we're going to include an exclusive acoustic performance.
Oh, cool!
That we're going to toss in, and so I'm working with my bandmates on what we're going to do, because I don't want to do an acoustic performance of songs we're going to be doing later in the show. I want it to be loose and fun, and be able to play a variety of cover songs. And so I'm in the process now of putting together like a list of songs that I want to be able to play. And, my bandmates, in the Gin Blossoms, there's a lot of compromise. And that was the main topic of the interview I did earlier, is compromise. What the question was, what keeps the band together? And I'm like, compromise. That's the only way to get through it, is to agree to do stuff you don't necessarily want to do. And with this VIP meet and greet acoustic performance, I want to be able to just break out fun cover songs and have it be loose. And I'm already getting a little feedback from my bandmates. So I don't want to do that song, and I don't want to do that song. And I might just tell the guys, listen, this is the song I'm going to do today. You don't have to play with me if you don't want to, but I want to sing Indiana Wants Me, or a Tom Petty song or something, and I'm hoping I can get away with that. Again, I don't always get my way. If you ask my bandmates, they would tell you that I always get my way, but it doesn't feel that way to me, and so I'm gonna be dealing with that. We're gonna be rehearsing next week, and I plan to discuss this with them and let them know that in order for this to be really fun for me, I don't want to be really restricted in what I can and cannot play at those acoustic performances for the VIPs. So anyway, so that's where we're at there, and I'm in the process right now also of designing all of the merchandise for the tour. And for the VIP meet and greet, we do exclusive merchandise. If you purchase the VIP package, you get a tote bag, you get a laminated backstage pass, and an exclusive T-shirt that we do not sell in any other format. And so I'm in the process right now of finalizing the designs for all of that merchandise, and it's great. My girlfriend is a big fan of the New Kids on the Block, and I'm basically ripping off some of their ideas for our merchandise, because they really got their shit together when it comes to merch. And so I've kind of adapted a few of the New Kids ideas for Gin Blossom's merchandise. And so that's one of my projects this week, is to oversee the final design for that stuff.
Well, can't wait to see that.
Yeah. So there you go. I hope it works out well, and I hope we all enjoy it. I'm not thrilled about the idea of being obligated to a performance like 2 hours before the show, but I really relate to the fans, and it's always been important to me to be the kind of person and the kind of personality that I want my favorite singer to be. And so I do go out of my way to to be as gracious as possible and to make myself available to the fans. And, you know, sometimes my bandmates think I do this because I love attention and that I feed off of all this attention and I just need to stuff my ego full of all this praise. But again, I do that. I go out into the crowd because I enjoy it, and again, it's important to me to conduct myself the way I would want my favorite singer to be. So that's always been my motivation. You know?
And I respect that a lot. GinBlossoms.net, guys, you can get those VIP packages. Highly recommend it. It's really good stuff. It sounds like a lot of interesting things for the fans coming up. And since we're talking about New Miserable Experience, of course, going to be playing the entire album. It's coming up on 27 years old. Obviously, this was such an integral part of the band's genesis, and obviously the band had a life before this. This is so, where things really just completely took off for you guys. Take us back in time to, 1992, 91, when this is being recorded, and just sort of, how things changed for you personally and for the band as this album's being recorded, and the hits just keep coming. Lost Horizons, Hey Jealousy, Mrs. Rita, Until I Fall Away. They just kept coming, and the things certainly changed. Not just the bank account, but which probably got bigger too, but what a time it was for you guys.
It certainly was. And, obviously the biggest change was losing our guitar player and our founding member and main songwriter, Doug Hopkins. And, this is kind of like AC/DC losing Angus Young. Doug was such an instrumental part of the band, not only as a songwriter, but as a stage presence. He was really the frontman in most ways. He, again, I compare it to Angus Young. He was the main presence on stage, and recording the album was incredibly difficult. Doug, he had a lot of personal problems, and he was really, really struggling. And I guess now we understand that Doug had what I guess is called bipolar disorder, and we didn't really understand that then. Nobody was talking about bipolar disorder in 1990, 91. But Doug was really angry, and he was really depressed, and he was drinking so much, and it was such a struggle to record with him on this record. And for all of his genius, it was really, really hard. And there was, I'll give you an example. There was a moment where I walked into the studio, and our producer, John Hampton, was in mid-conversation with Doug, and they were in the middle of some conversation, and I just walked in, and I heard John say, well, we need to get somebody in here to play these guitar solos. And Doug just kind of shrugged and said, well, I guess Jesse can play my solos, and I was so shocked, and I was so distressed by this comment that Doug was basically just giving up on recording the record. He was drinking so much, and he was just so depressed, and to hear that come out of who is essentially our leader was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I, a lot of people know the story, but we ended up having to fire Doug at the end of those sessions because he just couldn't function. And I tried a few months later to get him back in the band. I went to my bandmates and the label, and I said, let's just give him the leave of absence. Let's send him to rehab. But I couldn't get a consensus on that, and it was over. And the band changed forever. At that point, because again he had so much presence, both on stage and as a songwriter, and so the direction musically of the band shifted somewhat. And of course, Jesse and I were always writing a lot of the material as well. But Doug was a better songwriter than Jesse or I. And nobody wanted to fire him. You never want to fire somebody from your band, especially a key member like that. You have to push and push and push beyond anyone's limits to tolerate these kinds of negative behaviors to reach a point where there's just no other choice. And again, it changed the band forever. So, when I look back on these sessions, I get really sad because it was such a hard time for us. We were under such incredible pressure. We're just young men trying to figure it out. We're the first band from our town to get a recording contract and have this opportunity. So we just had so much pressure on us, and it was so tough. It was so difficult to make the record, and then to lose Doug. And we were fortunate to find Scotty Johnson, who was always a good friend of ours, and to have him step in and take over as guitar. And Scott is a real stable force. I mean, he's a fun guy to be around, and so that in some ways made it okay. But losing Doug was in the band was the toughest thing that ever happened to us, and it's something that I'm always going to look back on with such regret and sadness, and it's really just, it's hard to describe. And it's also really unfortunate because in the year or so leading up to the recording of the record, Doug and I had finally begun to really write songs together, and the potential for the material that Doug and I could have written together, there's just no telling what we could have done. And I really feel that if he had survived in the band, that he and I would have possibly gone on to be one of the strongest songwriting teams of our generation. And it just breaks my heart to think about what could have been. And even without Doug, we had a fabulous career that I'm so grateful for, and Jesse and I have both written hit songs, and Jesse and I, are more or less the leaders of the band. We handle different sort of aspects of things, but the guys generally sort of take their cue from Jesse and I, and in terms of, like I say, different aspects of the career. Jesse tends to handle the business side of the band, and he's always who we turn to when we have questions about interacting with our lawyers or business managers or crew and that sort of thing. And I'm more in charge of the presentation of the band. I do the set lists and work on the T-shirts and album covers, and the presentation is sort of my forte. And we've been very, very lucky, and I'm extremely grateful to be here in the future doing interviews, to have tour, to have a new record, a really solid new record that I'm super proud of. And, people don't buy a lot of records anymore, but, I know that we, just as a musician who's been making records for over 30 years now, I'm so proud of this album, and I really feel it's like one of the best things that I've ever participated in. And it's our best record since You Miserable Experience. And as I say, I'm very, very grateful to be in Gin Blossom.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the album you're referring to, which is a perfect lead in to my next question, which is about the latest album, Mixed Reality. It came out back in June. Having seen you guys live a couple times, even before the album came out, you played some songs off of it. I think it's tremendous. Like you said, I think it is your best album, probably since then. And it's just great to see some of these songs get played live. Songs like Break and Angels Fly have been kind of staples. Are you going to stay with some of these songs? Because this was such a good album that I feel like, these songs have a life, past just when the album's out. So hopefully we still hear them coming up live.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be playing a lot of material from Mixed Reality. And, I just assume continue acting like it's a brand new record. It's only been 7 months. With New Miserable Experience, we were out on tour supporting that record for like 2.5 years. And one example I can give you is that, we have 2 different logos for our band. And the one that most people are familiar with is what I call the script logo that's on the cover of New Miserable Experience, where Gin Blossoms is written in a sort of a handwriting script. And then the other one is what I call the lightning logo from the cover of Congratulations, I'm Sorry. And my bandmates were kind of a little bit rankled by when I decided to use the lightning logo for the new album cover. They're like, no, the other one is the one that people know. The other one is the really established one. And I'm like, well, wait a second. There's no reason we can't have more than one logo.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't long after the album was released that I started getting pressure to redesign our website and include the script logo. And I was like, wait a second. No. We've got a new album. We're going to promote the new album, and the website needs to reflect the artwork from the new album. And, again, I got a little bit of resistance from that. And anyway, for the upcoming tour, since it's the New Miserable Experience tour, we're going back to the script logo for most of the merchandise and the drum head, and we project the logo onto the back of the stage. And so for this tour, we're going to be focusing most of the presentation on the script logo. And these are just examples of all the grenades I've got that I'm juggling right now. And anyway, there you go. So you'll be seeing a lot of the script logo on the next tour.
I'm a fan of both. Hey, I think it all works. A performance I've always wanted to ask you about, especially since we have Bruce Kulick from Kiss, formerly of Kiss, coming on the show next week. I've always wanted to ask you about your performance of Christine 16 for the Kiss My Ass tribute album, and then your performance with Kiss on the Tonight Show with David Letterman. You did Christine 16 with the band. Like, how did all this come about? Are you, or is Jesse, or is someone a huge Kiss fan? And how did this kind of all come about playing with Kiss that night?
Well, it was me. I was a big Kiss fan when I was really young. In fact, the first concert I ever saw was Cheap Trick open for Kiss on the Love Gun tour in 1977, and that was the very first concert I ever saw. And and it obviously affected me very deeply. And so I was a big fan of Kiss, and at the time that we were invited to participate in the Kiss My Ass tribute record, I was the only member of our band that really had an emotional connection to Kiss. So I had to talk my bandmates into it. They were all just kind of shrug and say, well, I don't even know any Kiss songs. And I'm like, for me, it was an important opportunity to take advantage of. So, at least I was familiar enough with Kiss's catalog to select a song that I thought Gin Blossoms could do and perform reasonably well. So we did that, and we recorded it in Phoenix, and then we went out I went to L.A. for the mixing sessions, and Gene and Paul came to the studio that day to listen to the mixes. And so it was a huge thrill for me because I got to bring, my little brother's copy of Love Gun to get signed, and I brought my Kiss lunchbox that I had all these years, and I had them sign that. And it was really an awesome day for me to to spend in the studio with Gene and Paul, telling them stories. And I told them that every day in the 6th grade, when I was in the 6th grade, every day after school, I would go to my best friend's house, and we would go down to his basement, and we would lip sync to Kiss records for hours. And I was always Paul Stanley. I always wanted to be the singer, so I was Paul Stanley. And my friend always wanted to be Peter Criss when we did these lip syncing sessions. And we did this virtually every day that we were in the 6th grade. And Gene and Paul kind of laughed, and Gene looks over at me and he says, "So, why? Why did you do that?" And I said, "Well, because we wanted to be like you, And then the other thing that was really fun that day is, at the time I was collecting a lot of comic books, and I had some with me, and I had them in the plastic sleeves. They were in my backpack. And Gene was a comic book fan when he was younger, and he knows a lot about the comic book world. And he saw my comic books, and he's like, "Oh, well, what is this there?" And from the sleeves, he could tell I was a collector. And he said, "So, well, what do you got?" And I showed him Spawn number 3. And so I was the first person to show Gene Simmons a Spawn comic book.
Wow.
And it was within just a few years of that Kiss was working with McFarlane Productions on both the Psycho Circus comic book and their entire line of toys and stuff. And so there have been a number of moments in my lifetime, in my career, where I've sort of felt like I am the Forrest Gump of the geek underworld. And that was certainly one of those moments.
Not a bad thing to be at all. That is tremendous. I mean, the band's on their end of the road tour. Are you going to be able to find time to catch them one last time? I mean, it's
No, it doesn't really work out. It's hard for me to get out to shows, and it's not the same for me. I don't want to go to a concert that I can't go backstage and hang out with the band. I mean, it's not a lot of fun for me to do that. In the last 8 years, I have only purchased tickets for 2 concerts, and I've been able to see 2 of my favorite artists that way. In 2010, I saw The Darkness.
Yes.
Who I think is
awesome.
Maybe Earth's greatest rock band right now. I mean, they're just such a powerful, powerful group. And so I saw The Darkness, and then just a few months ago, I saw Johnny Marr, and that was a fantastic show. He's also one of my heroes, and his latest record, called The Comet, is one of the best albums of the last decade, and it's just a fantastic record. And so I was really excited to see Johnny Marr a couple months ago. And those are the only 2 concerts that I've gone to in the last decade that I wasn't on the bill. So I would enjoy seeing Kiss, but I spend so much time traveling. It's hard to get me out of the house when I'm home.
Yeah.
I just want to stay at home, or when I'm in Arizona, I spend time on my boat, and I sort of camp out on my boat. And I'm a simple guy, and those are kind of, if I'm not working, that's really all I want to do.
Sure.
Tonight's a good example. I'm home tonight, and I'm really looking forward to making some chili dogs and watching this new horror movie on Netflix. And so I'm psyched to be home and to have a whole night to myself. You're the last person I'm going to talk to for like the next 20 hours.
That could be scary.
What's that?
I mean, that's kind of scary. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for me being the last human you're going to talk to. I mean, hopefully though, it's funny how, in my 20s, it starts off, well, what am I doing tonight? Oh my gosh, we're meeting here. We're going to this bar and we're going to catch this band. Now it's like you said, it's like, what horror movie can I check out on Netflix tonight? Maybe for you, is it going to be Bird Box? That's the one that everyone's talking about. So if you haven't checked that out.
Well, I already watched that one. I don't I don't remember what it's called, but it stars Jake Gyllenhaal, and it has something to do with like haunted painting, kind of the haunted artwork. So I saw the preview. I had read about it last week, and I saw the preview earlier today when I was flipping through Netflix. And it took a lot of strength not to just start watching it this afternoon while I was having lunch. But I thought, no, I'm gonna make my chili dogs, and I'm gonna sit down and watch this movie.
I think I think the one is Velvet Buzzsaw is the name of it. So
okay,
enjoy.
All right. Yeah, so that should be fun. And other than that, that's my night tonight. Some chili dogs, a horror movie, and I actually I'll be speaking with my girlfriend later, and I'll probably give my son a call and plan out our interactions for tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, before we let you go, Robin, you've been so gracious with your time. And, I've always wanted to ask you this because I remember I have a lot of tattoos myself. I was a big fan of the show LA Ink. And one day I'm watching it, a decade or so ago, and you're on it. You're on the show getting your Phoenix tattoo on your forearm. Are you still a tattoo guy? Are you still getting more? What's your tattoo situation?
Yeah, and I've got 19 tattoos now. I just got one a few weeks ago. And most of my tattoos are lyrical quotes. I've got a quote from Cheap Trick, surrender, but don't give yourself away. I've got a David Bowie tattoo that says, turn and face the strange changes. I've got the opening line of Bohemian Rhapsody, is this the real life, is this just fantasy? I've got Tom Petty, the waiting is the hardest part. I've got a My Chemical Romance tattoo that says, I'm not okay. And it's my understanding that the guitar player, Frank, from My Chemical Romance, he has a tattoo that says, hey, jealousy.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
I thought that was kind of cool. And then since I've been working with the Smithereens this year, I recently, or last spring when I started doing shows with them, I went out and got a tattoo that says Blood and Roses. And the one I just got the other day, I've been saving a big spot on my arm for this one, and it's the chorus of Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones, War Children, it's just a shot away.
Awesome.
And so I just got that one, and it's also got the little Rolling Stones tongue graphic. So
awesome. I love that.
I was just about 10 days ago I got that one, and I was just dabbing it with a little bit of moisturizer a little while ago. So,
yep, it should be about healed by now,
yeah.
Rob. That is awesome, man. I tell you, it's so great to talk to you. We are so excited to have you back here on January 25th at the Ameristar Casino, guys. You can get tickets. ginblossoms.net on the band's website. VIP packages available, regular tickets available. We'll see you then. Can't wait to check out the band again, man. And always great to speak with you guys. And you guys are one of those bands that just you resonate time. You transcend a decade. You transcend the entire decade of the 90s. You transcend the genres. So excited to see you, Robin. We can't thank you enough, man.
Well, thank you. That felt really kind of you to say. I appreciate the help and the support, Clint. It's been nice chatting with you, and I look forward to the show in Kansas City.
Absolutely. See you then.
Thank you, and rock away.
You bet. Thanks a lot. Huge thanks to Robin Wilson for joining us. What a special interview that was for me. The first time interviewing a member from Gin Blossoms. We've been trying to make this happen for years. Finally able to catch up with Robin, who was doing some other interviews. And just what a cool, down-to-earth guy. He's talking about just watching Netflix and making chili dogs tonight. And he's a guy that's kind of a homebody like me. When I'm not out rocking or traveling the world, I'm at home doing nothing, which is, one of my preferred activities. So definitely kindred spirits in that. Awesome that he is such a big Kiss fan. And that's one of the reasons, that the band did that cover song for the Kiss My Ass tribute and performed live with Kiss on The Tonight Show. That's awesome. It's on YouTube. You can go check that out and definitely catch Gin Blossoms when they are in your neck of the woods. And they're going to be here again in Kansas City, January 25th. That's a Friday at Ameristar Casino. Do not miss this show if you are in the Kansas City area, and catch them on. And they're going to be heading back on tour. They got Kansas City and Baton Rouge, January 25th and 26th. Then February 8th, the tour really kicks off in Baltimore, Maryland. So again, go to ginblossoms.net for all information, tickets, VIP, and the new album, which is mixed reality. You want to get this thing, support this band. They're out there still doing this. They're out there making new music, and it's relevant and it's good stuff. So to me, that's very important. If a band's still out there giving it their all, giving the fans what they want. So with that said, we want to go ahead and transition to our second interview of today's podcast. It is Michael Lardie, guitarist, keyboards from Great White. Michael, thanks so much for joining us, my friend. How's everything going?
Very well. We got one under our belt. We did a festival down in Florida on the 12th, and going to Biloxi this weekend, and then we're coming to see you guys.
Yes, you guys are going to be here at the Kansas Crossing Casino, which is only a couple years old. This venue is awesome. A lot of bands scheduled there for this winter, spring, and on into the summer. So you guys are going to be Saturday, January 26th, back in Pittsburgh, Kansas, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from Kansas City, which you guys know this area very well. So excited to have you back, man, and another run of shows starting up, and you guys got to be excited about these upcoming dates, no doubt about it.
Oh, it's totally true. I mean, usually we're pretty quiet during this time of the year, but the last couple of years we've decided, let's book all year long. We love to work, so we just had our agent put together some shows, and we actually have a moderately busy January, so we're psyched about that.
You guys definitely do. I mean, do you prefer that, or I mean, obviously, once you get on into April, May, and June, and into July, that's obviously the kind of the busier time. But do you prefer doing this, getting out there and being indoors and obviously outside? Unless you're in Florida like you guys just were, lucky fans there that can go to a concert outside. It's 0 degrees here this weekend, Michael. So we're going to give them a free pass on that. But do you prefer working a little longer, doing some more dates, doing some inside shows?
Yeah, I think, we've always had great experiences doing winter tours as well. We did a great one in 90 with Alice Cooper that took us all the way from St. John's, Halifax to Vancouver in Canada. You talk about sub-zero weather. But it's great to get it inside and have the lights and have it be, a real rock show. So we're digging the fact that we're working, and it's about time we got to the Kansas City area.
Always excited to have you guys here. It's been a minute, and we're just so excited for that. Talk about 2018 for you guys, because it was definitely a year of change. You guys bring Mitch Malloy into the fold. Just talk about kind of that change and what it's meant to the band, because I think that just from a peripheral standpoint, Mitch is just a powerhouse vocalist, extremely good showman, adds a lot of elements to the band. You've got a couple live videos featuring Mitch on YouTube right now. It's just great stuff. Just talk about kind of that change and what it's meant to the band.
It's just one of those things where, you think about the thing in your life, about what you're doing from an artistic standpoint. You sometimes you have to make changes, and go forward. And ironically enough, the funny story was that Mark and I were both thinking about this guy, but never talked to each other about it. So he was going about checking out stuff on Mitch, and I was going on about checking out stuff about Mitch. And it just got to a point where we were both kind of like, this could be the guy. Really? I was thinking that too. So it worked out great that we sent him some tracks this thing on, and the stuff he sent back, we just went, whoa, okay, now we're talking. And it just, everything about, like you said, his performance, his quality of vocal, and the attitude is great. I think seeing a guy up there that performs like he does in front of the band is, giving us and the fans a shot in the arm. So we're pretty psyched about it.
And no doubt to me that in 2019, with so many veteran bands that are, thank goodness, still around and touring, like Great White, it's unbelievable to think about this, and to think about the idea that really what it's about is just keeping these great songs alive. And Great White has such a catalog and such a great history dating back from the 80s, from Once Bitten to Twice Shy to Hooked and on. How important is that for you guys, just the idea that, regardless of who's in the band, who's an original member, all those things, is just keeping these songs alive for the fans?
Yeah, it's important to us. I mean, obviously we want to play, the songs that have basically given us a career 35 years later. At the same time, we are, just starting to work on some new material with Mitch, which is great, because it's like, it still sounds like Great White, but you can imagine that voice on top of it, because you've heard the hits out there on YouTube.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. We actually recorded our show this year. Where those videos come from was from the Kentucky State Fair, August of last year, and we are thinking of putting out a DVD with the entire show on it, and adding a couple of new scribed Great White tunes with Mitch on there. So the fans, get a little taste of what new Great White sounds like with all the old hits. So we're kind of planning and trying to make that happen sometime in the not too distant future.
That would be tremendous. Absolutely. I mean, and talk about this because we've had Mark Kendall on this show before, and obviously, between you and Audie and Mark, I mean, just the camaraderie. Talk about the kind of that camaraderie and that chemistry you guys have, because obviously the band has experienced ups and downs, and you've had times where you've been apart. Here we are in 2019, just with those guys and the legacy of this band. Talk about just how important and what the chemistry's like, with those other two guys that have been around this thing for so many years.
Well, one of the things that you always hope you find in any band that you ever play with in your life is there is a specific sound that is made with the specific people that play in it. And you could probably replace a guitar player, or you could replace me, or you could replace Audie. But I think if you did those three elements, it wouldn't be the same sound. So it's, part of the freshness of going on stage and playing is like, nobody else in the world sounds like the three of us, in this band. And that part is really cool. And I think that the fans, certainly get that. And, by writing new material periodically, it keeps it fresh for us as well. And the chemistry is always there. I think one of the things that made it able to work, for so many years with, a very small break in the early 2000s, is just that, the music is the music, and in our downtime, we have our families and our lives, and we pay attention and make sure we nurture that. And then when we get together, it's like a great joy, and we play that, and then we go back to that. So life is about balance these days, and it's working out great, and we're all still great friends, and we love to rock together.
Well, Michael, you guys had some big tours. Obviously, in the 80s, we talked about you guys kind of taking on a busier schedule this year. But it's touring so much different these days. I mean, talk about that, because a lot of these dates are weekend dates you kind of fly into. This is kind of the thing now, which is obviously very economical. But talk about kind of that concept today versus what it was like in the 80s when you're slugging it out on the buses and driving town to town and little sleep and all that came with that. I mean, just talk about the differences there, because there's got to be a lot of differences in that.
Yeah, slugging out is a very good description. When you're talking about, 6 to 8 month tours, nonstop, 5 shows a week, grounding on an average of 253 miles a day to go to the next city. And then you're home, and then you wake up and you try to order room service and it doesn't work. So that's one side of it, and I would not have traded any of that time or any of those experiences with all the bands that we had that toured with us. Now, what's cool about what we're doing is we get to go out and still do 55, 60 shows a year, but then we get to be home and have some amount of normalcy for 3 or 4 days a week. And like I said before about the balance, it really is the best of both worlds to be able to do that now.
Absolutely. And, that also allows, a guy like Mark to go to watch his Dodgers play. Never going to win a World Series, but he gets to go at least watch him play a couple times a week in the summer. That's great. It's great for Mark. I mean, the World Series part may never come for him, but that's okay. Well, you never know.
We won't say that. Yeah, we won't say that real loud in front of him. But I have to admit, they're not my team, because my team has been the Vikings forever for football. But I am rooting for your Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, that's awesome. You know what? I'm always up for that conversation. We have a sports show here as well. We're talking Chiefs, of course, all week. This is crazy. It's supposed to be negative 14 degrees here in Kansas City. Now, this is temperatures that I thought only occurred up in Minnesota, where they have a dome stadium, obviously. But it's going to be brutal down here for this game against the Patriots.
Well, I think Patrick's going to gonna shine. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that one.
Well, this is great. This is I definitely I'm feeling it. I think that this connection here might just be what puts it over the top. Michael, I appreciate that for sure, man. You know what, that we always like to talk to artists that we interview is I like to kind of just get into, you know, the upbringing and kind of the genesis for music for you. So, Michael, talk about kind of your musical genesis, how it all started, and some of your heroes in music as you were growing up.
Well, growing up, there was always music in my house. As early as I can remember, evidently there's a picture that my folks have of me attempting to put on a record, and it turns out that it was Pound Up by Elvis Presley. I must have been like 2.5 or something. I worked out how to start the stereo. And then, of course, the Beatles just completely floored me. That was the one pivotal moment where, you know, at 5 years old, I turned around to Mom and Dad and said, I'm going to do that. And I said, oh, yeah, isn't that cute? All the time grooming me to be a doctor, you know? Like, here's these medical books. Read these. You know, you're 5. I know you can read. But, you know, once I saw the Beatles, that was it. I was done. It was like that was the potion of perfect storm that just said, that's what you're going to do. And I've been very lucky and very fortunate in my life to have never derivated from that. Coming down to Los Angeles when I was about 19, knowing that Northern California, where I was living at the time and growing up, was not the musical mecca, and I knew I had to get down in the middle of it. And, you know, I worked as a recording engineer as well, so because I learned that, you know, hoping that was going to help, you know, put forth what I wanted my music to sound like eventually. And it just turned out that, you know, another perfect storm happened where I'm working as a staff engineer at Total Access, and I meet the band Great White in '83. And we become friends, and by the time they're ready to do Shot in the Dark, I'm starting to play keyboards on the records, doing some background singing, and before What's Bitten, I'm, you know, asked to produce, you know, engineer, and be part of the band. So it was very organic and very cool how it all happened.
It certainly is, and I have always fascinated by Los Angeles during this time. Of course, you know, many of the artists we cover come, you know, from that Sunset Strip era, from the mid to late '80s, where you guys came from. It's just unbelievable. You know, not getting into any specifics, you don't have to, because a lot of the stories we, you know, just can't air. They just can never be told. There's just too much out there, Michael. But my goodness, the Sunset Strip, will there ever be anything like that rivals that? And just kind of in general, what was that like for you at the time as a young guy living in Hollywood, and just the scene that was going on at the time? There's literally nothing that's like it before or since.
Well, I think the only thing that would rival it in its closeness would have been, you know, the Sunset Strip in '65 and '66.
Sure.
With, you know, with all that going on with the broadcast and all that stuff. But there was so much music coming out the doors, Russell Springfield, the Beach Boys, all of that stuff. You know, the kids were, you know, running around the streets and walking across the street in the middle of the street. And it was just like a celebration. And the same thing happened in the late '80s, you know, 20 years, you know, in the mid-'80s, 20 years later. And that's really what it was. It was just like the celebration every night. There was so much music to see, so much vibe, and the music was so upbeat and so happy, and everybody dressed the part, and it was just, you know, it was a magical time. But, you know, I think part of the reason there won't be any times like that again is, you know, there's been a lot of lost innocence in the world, unfortunately. And I think the reason why the 80s happened is because there was, you know, an ability to still retain that innocence, but still have, you know, the technology and the ability to get around and to see those things, see the music, that made just, you know, just that perfect combination of things that made it just magic.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. But I tell you what, Michael, we're just looking so forward to everything you guys got coming up. The website is officialgreatwhite.com. You can get all the information on tour dates, news. You got your Facebook, your Instagram, your Google+, your Twitter, and your YouTube. Boy, I think that about covers it. I mean, the social media part's amazing. I love that you can keep up with artists. Can you imagine, you know, being you know, a kid and growing up, and following Paul McCartney on Twitter and being able to talk to him in the 60s. I mean, how cool is that your fans get to communicate with you that way?
No, that was definitely the difference. I mean, you could only sit and fantasize about Robert Plant or, Joe Perry or Keith Richards, from the album. You look at the album covers and you'd imagine, what they were doing that day, but now it's like a real-time thing. I have one great Beatles moment in my life where I got to take a picture with Ringo and hang out with him when he was doing an interview on a show on A&E about 10 years ago. A friend of mine was the host, and she invited me down, not telling me that Ringo was the guest that day. And he shows up, and I'm like, on the way out the door. He doesn't take pictures with anybody, but somehow she talked her into it. And he stands there, and I'm saying, it was because of the band and influence that made me become a musician. And typical Ringo fashion, he said, "Don't blame me."
You just love it. That's what it's all about, my friend. I'll tell you what, Michael, can't wait to have you guys here. It's January 26th. It's a Saturday. No excuse not to be there. Kansas Crossing Casino. Again, the website, officialgreatwhite.com. Michael, thanks so much, my friend. We will see you here in a couple weeks, buddy.
Well, thank you, my friend, and have a great week, and we'll see you real soon.
Hey, thanks a lot. Talk soon. Appreciate it. Big thanks to Michael Lardie for joining us. Again, you can catch them at the Kansas Crossing Casino in Pittsburgh, Kansas, coming up January 26th. It's the day after the Jim Blossom show in Kansas City, so hit both of them. That's what I'm going to do. Either that or I'm going to be at the Scorpions in Durant, Oklahoma on the 26th. I'm not sure which one I'm going to be able to make happen. Wish there were two of me, because some days it just feels so good, and there's so many shows to see that I wish there was two of me to go to all of them. So big thanks to them, guys. We are just getting things started here on the Music Mania podcast. We have Bruce Kulick from KISS coming up. We've already got the interview in the can. We're going to be previewing the KISS Into the Road tour. We're going to be talking all things KISS, what members might be available for guest appearances during the tour, what it was like for Bruce on the KISS cruise, which was a couple months ago. Everything KISS. It's all in one show. It is the End of the Road is our last KISS. We're going to be talking about potential set list and much, much more. Our favorite KISS albums, favorite KISS songs, going into the 80s, the 70s, the non-makeup, the makeup, the reunion, what Bruce thought of the reunion when he and Eric Singer were basically kicked out of the band for Ace and Peter, and then to have Eric Singer rejoin in the makeup, and Bruce, whether he was not interested in doing so or kind of whatever the story is on that. But we always appreciate you guys hitting the subscribe button on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, hitting us up on our website, musicmaniapodcast.com. All the shows are archived. We will be back, guys, next week. Thanks so much for joining us. Bruce Kulick coming up, the End of the Road. KISS tour is on the horizon.